Welcome to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast, brought to you by your friends at Finding Balance. I'm your host, Chrissy Kirkman. On this show, we kick it as old school as it gets with how God created us to live, free from dieting, food rules, and body shame. Ready to replace the old soundtrack of cultural lies with biblical truth? Let's start with this. You don't have to be trapped by food struggles. You were created to be free. God adores you and wants you to experience the fullness of life without body hatred or bondage to dieting. The time is now to take a step toward the life you were created for. We're so glad you're here with us today. Let's get into today's episode. During a closet clean out of my childhood bedroom, I uncovered a literal time capsule from two significant phases in my life. Immediately, I began to picture my friend, Amy Carlson, recalling a similar story she shared on another podcast. I just knew I wanted her to go through this with me. Now, fair warning, we get really silly on this episode, giggling like young girls, joking around and singing. But there are also some very tender moments where we feel compassion for the young 10-year-old Chrissy and her classmates whose identities were under attack. And no matter your generation, you were likely fed these lies too. Amy Carlson, thank you so much for coming back to the show. I am ready to have deep belly laughs with you right now.
I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready.
Yay. It's been too long since you've been here last, but I am glad that you are here first. For all my friends who may not have heard your original episode, because it was in season 1 and we are now in season 5. This is the first episode of season 5. So thank you for kicking this off with me.
You're so welcome. And it has been too long. And if you haven't listened to that one, it was full of belly laughs, actually.
It sure was. All right, friends, let me tell you about Amy Carlson. She is a registered, licensed dietitian in the Houston, Texas area. She holds her Bachelor's of Science in Nutrition from the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, where she grew up, and received her Master's of Science in Nutrition from Texas Women's University. Amy has been practicing in her field for over 25 years and has had the privilege of working with girls and women with eating disorders for nearly as long. Sad that that is the case. Here we are to talk about it today, right?
Here we are to talk about it today.
Yeah. So after recovering from anorexia and bulimia during a time when neither were well understood, it has become her passion to speak truth into girls and women as they seek to recover. Amy is also one of the co-founders of the Peace with Food app alongside her dear friend and colleague and our good friend, Dr. Megan Osborne. And Finding Balance has been blessed to have both of these as a featured speaker at Hungry for Hope events and an expert in our Lasting Freedom course and on the podcast. Amy is a wife and mom of 4, and she enjoys that most of all. That's Amy Carlson.
Oh, I kind of feel like I need you to read that bio like in the morning when I wake up.
Well,
to remind me who I am.
I have a good producer who can clip that and send that little audio to you. So Leah, get on that. So good. So we always have to kick it off. And I know you've already said what old school item you missed from back in the day, but since we're taking it back to the 80s today, what old school item or experience do you miss from that rad decade?
Yeah. Well, I know that people who are around my age are going to get this, but I actually miss trading stickers.
Love.
We'd make a sticker book, and we didn't actually have that much money. I had to do like the old come in a 4-sheet, maybe I got them from like the dime store or whatever, but my friends that were really cool had the scratch and sniff.
Oh my gosh.
And so how many stickers did I have to trade to get like the bubblegum smell? It's like we get just smelling those stickers. It was like, yes.
Buttered popcorn. Oh my gosh.
Buttered popcorn. Oh my word.
I scratched and sniffed the buttered popcorn until it was sniffed out. And you're in the back alleys, not really back street, but it's like street alleys of you're like trading stickers underground.
And you know what else that was super rad was the whole pins. You would make designs on safety pins and put them on our tennis shoes.
Okay, I cannot believe you just said that because I just had this conversation. My husband did not believe it was a thing. I'm like, this was a thing. And I showed him photos. He's like, no, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, you were in high school. Like, this dates us, right? So I was in first grade when he was graduating high school in the 80s.
Stop. That's actually really sweet.
It's super sweet and weird for back then, but like now it's cool. We're fine. But he had no clue. I'm like, you lived through this. He's like, yeah, but I wasn't putting, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. He wasn't maybe doing safety pin situation at his graduation party. He's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
We were though. We were. And it was cool. And if you could one time I tried to make a Swedish flag. Honestly,
wow.
I did. I know. I wasn't actually that crafty. I don't think I pulled it off, but
you attempted.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the thought that counts. And I probably stabbed myself too many times that I just would cry and be like, I can't do this.
Bloody
this is traumatic. To counseling, like,
go back to scratch.
Let me just snip this. I can do this. And the funny thing that you say that is a good lead into what we're talking about today. So a few months back, I was at my parents' house. They still live in the home that I moved to when I was 9.
Okay.
And I was in my old bedroom that my mom kind of converted into her office. She's like, you still have a whole bunch of stuff from like high school and childhood here. Can you come and do something about this 20 plus years later? I'm like, sure. So I go over there and I'm just kind of going through stuff. Now, scratch and sniff stickers. So I'm holding up my rainbow bright lunchbox.
Stop
Yellow
it right
rainbow
now.
bright lunchbox. I don't know the characters except rainbow bright, but look at the stickers. They're not scratch and sniff.
Yeah.
They're the ones like you described.
The other stickers.
Like the cheapo, right? But I open this thing up. I can feel that like I open it up and there's not a thermos in there anymore. Like where the thermos used to be, I open it up and there are all these weird like treasure things. Look at this doily. I don't know what this thing is, but it's got a cat. It's like you hang cross stitch.
I think
it says Chrissy on it. It's got a little cat and a flower and you hang it.
Did you make that?
No, somebody made it for me. I wish I knew who.
So we need to be super polite. It's beautiful.
Oh, no, I love it. I probably, if it went with my aesthetic, I would hang it in the office.
Retro.
Look at this. 2 canisters of undeveloped film. Like it's going to cost me probably $40 to get these 2.
Stop. You're going to do it.
I'm doing it and I'm scared.
Yeah. And then, I'm so excited.
Isn't that fun? And maybe I can post some things, but like.
Or maybe not.
It's probably not gonna.
It might be the original stuff.
Oh gosh. I mean, I'm scared actually to see what could be on here. But Field Day Awards participation.
Oh, sure, that says a lot.
Oh, but then I got 2 first place awards, and they were in kindergarten.
What were they for?
Like I was apparently an athlete of the tire relay and hula hoop relay. I was first place.
Oh, you know what? Tire relay is kind of a thing. I think that's legit.
I mean, Olympics? I don't know.
I'm not going to give you a prize for hula hoop, but
okay. I mean, hips don't lie. I've got this middle school field day participant because in middle school it wasn't happening. And then, just all these things. And then notes passed from friends, pictures, my tassel.
Oh, colored pens, maybe colored pens.
No, from like my graduation and movie tickets and concert tickets and all these things. Like my first job name tag, right? All these things.
Yeah.
But also in there, I found this book. And I remember the day I received this book. It is called About You, How to Feel Great and Look Terrific. This was the booklet all of us were given. And I'm thinking 4th grade. It could have been 5th grade. I think usually they give you, but it's like you're about to go to middle school. You're starting to smell like an onion patch. Like you stink. You need to wear deodorant. You need to take care of yourself.
Somebody's got to tell you. Somebody's got to say it out loud.
Someone has to say it, right?
The parents are like, teachers, it's up to you to tell my kid they need deodorant. I'm not going to tell them.
I can't say that to my child. Yes.
Look at the font on the front cover there. Okay. I mean, that's like every middle school romance novel had that font, right? Yes. Like I'm suddenly attracted. Like, does she date Sam? I mean, that's what that font screams.
Right. Friends, I'll put some pictures maybe in the show notes and maybe on Instagram and Facebook. I want you to see, like, this was legit. Every girl in my grade at my school was handed this diet culture propaganda. Like, I'm calling it that. So no wonder so many of us have struggled with our bodies for 30 plus years. I remember when we got this, they're telling you about periods and like all these things. And so I remember thinking, I was not a reader.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read this cover to cover. And I'm telling you, when you look on the inside, like I actually have different colors of me underlining things.
Oh, yes, you did.
Like it's ridiculous. And all the way to the very last page where it's the bibliography and it's where they got some of their Morgan Fairchild, like they're quoting her Morgan Fairchild super looks, 1984. And then this beauty, somehow I said, buy this Beauty Connection from 17 magazine. Like I told myself I needed to buy this, the Beauty Connection. And so, I mean, it made an impact. And I remember I was at my grandparents' that weekend. I went into the spare room and closed the door and I was going to read this.
Yes, you did. Think of how young you were. Like, I mean, you're still like skin in your knee riding a banana seat bike.
100% yes.
Hey, do you want to go roller skating? What kind of, birthday party should we have? And then you had that font that really screams romance novel.
I didn't even notice that.
Screams, I'm a grown up. I'm like a maturing young woman. And this is an authority on what I should do.
100%.
I mean, wow, you're a baby.
Yeah. It was 1988. I was 10 years old in the beginning of this book. Chrissy Gurney, 1988. I wrote that in there. I circled the name of the author so maybe I could like look into her and get more of her crap. And then in the table of contents, I'm circling the things that and starring things.
You are. Oh, look at.
I was all in.
I would love to see what other books you highlighted. Maybe not many. Well, you said you weren't a reader, so actually none.
Well, in our 90s edition, I was highlighting and writing in this magazine too. Yeah, you're right.
So in 1988 was the year that my eating disorder began.
Wow.
That's the year you just said was the year that my coach said to me, if you could lose 5 pounds off your hips, the timing on your uneven bars would be that much better. And I went in the locker room and cried and said, nobody will ever say that to me again. And I had that sort of propaganda and my mom's history of dieting in my head, which said, okay, it's the worst thing in the world that somebody would tell you that you needed to lose weight.
Yeah. And
that's what you were getting as a 4th grader. I was with your husband in high school. I wasn't graduating, but I was in high school. Wow. 1988, you got that at 10.
It's so sad.
I mean, it makes my heart just sort of, here's the question I always have to ask. What are we getting today that sounds just like that?
Wow.
What are we letting 10-year-olds read that sound just like that, only in different updated illustrations and digital platforms?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably very similar, if not exactly the same. Like, I mean, it's just the same junk in a new package.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think there's still magazines out there. I don't know how much girls that age or high school actually look at magazines, but we're just feeding ourselves with social media.
That's saying the same thing.
Saying the same thing.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Oh, of course.
Look at the highlights and the circling and the underline. I'm curious, when you got that, do you remember feeling bad about your body before you got that?
100% no.
You didn't?
As I read through this, and we're going to kind of go through some of these things, but it's almost like they're telling us things like eating is fun, but feeling good and looking good is even better. It says, so put that bag of cookies away. There are so many other delicious foods to choose.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I never knew that. They flat out say, we all have problems with our figures. We all wish we could change, reshape, or tone up some areas of our bodies. It's nothing to get upset about, especially because there's so much you can do to help yourself look good. In fact, it can be kind of a fun challenge.
Wow.
Like, I didn't know there was a problem. Oh, so let's normalize that everyone has problems with their figures, things that we want to change. I didn't have that realization until now.
You didn't have a frame of reference that. So I have a client who's no longer, she's in high school. She's actually going to be a junior. And she was 11 when she got her first phone. And she went on Pinterest to look up a cookie recipe. And she saw all the advertisements for dieting. And she said, I had no idea that that's what I was supposed to do as a girl until I got social media.
Wow.
So that was her version of that. And some people already have that feeling at the age of 10. Some people maybe would have gotten that and that would have reinforced what they already felt. But you're saying as a 10-year-old, you were trading smelly stickers and making pins on your tennis shoes. But yet you suddenly went from a really innocent view and a really just sort of sweet, naive view, beautiful view of your body, a really organic sort of original design view to, oh, guess what? P.S. We all hate our bodies and hear how you cannot. Wow. Can you imagine that messaging coming in? Now we can. Why are we acting like, wow, this is what our whole life's work is dedicated towards? But wow, right? I literally, if I could let myself go there, I would probably let myself cry to think of you sitting in that grandparents' bedroom. And actually kind of the thrill that you got of, I didn't know. I mean, you're underlining like, oh, newsflash. What do I got to do to make this happen? That's incredible.
Yeah.
Your innocence, in a way, stolen.
So in October, we'll be talking about breaking free from sexual shame and pornography struggles. And I'll share something that happened around the same time that totally connects to the reinforcement of what I thought I was supposed to look like based on what I discovered that it wasn't meant for me to see. And then thinking this and just kind of being like, oh, okay. So then I become more aware of my mom and grandma dieting, simple dieting.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's like this light, it just kind of illuminated things I didn't really pay attention to before.
Yeah. You know what's actually really interesting to me? I've shared this in a talk somewhere. I don't know where it is, somewhere. But my grandma, who was an incredible cook, she's Swedish, and which Swedes aren't actually known for cooking. They're known for baking, but she was both known for cooking and baking. She was also dressed really stylish. She had her own clothing store in Boston can you imagine, like in the 50s?
Oh
I mean,
gosh.
That was so unheard of, I know. And what I remember so much about her is being people gatherer, and she gathered people around the table. I have a lot of her stuff. I just found these little place cards that she would kept in a little Ziploc baggie, like in case those same people came over. She had their place card, for Easter, for
so
Christmas,
cute.
for whatever. And when I got married, she gave me a Fannie Farmer cookbook, and she wrote inside of the cover, I hope you will love collecting and making recipes as much as I have. And indeed, I have. And she had such a healthy, beautiful relationship with her body and food. She always just dressed for her body, everything. So she would have, I'm going to date myself, but right, she would have been born like before 1920. And my mom, her generation, they grew up with this understanding somewhere in there, starting right 50s, 60s, that their body was bad 70s. And then that real pinnacle for us in the 80s. And it's interesting where it got lost that my grandma didn't have the feeling that her body was bad. And I'm not saying that my grandma's in glory today. She would have been very old if she was still alive. She probably could have. She could have crushed it. She could have crushed 120, but she did not. But think about where that happened. My grandma wasn't messaging that to my mom. That came from outside.
Yeah.
That came from advertising. When advertising switched after World War II, where they started their goal was to tell people, right?
Yeah.
You're not enough without our product. And it worked. It really worked. But that messaging came and has continued to come to the point of it was given to you on your desk and there was no filter. Like a teacher's not like, I wonder if I should read this first. Well, the teacher's like, great. What advice can I get from this?
Right.
Well, the message was, Chrissy, your body is going to be out of control and here is how to control it and make it okay. Well, I'm guessing that's what it's saying, but you can tell us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even starting with the cover, I live in the Midwest. I was born and raised in the Kansas City, Missouri area. And so the small town that I grew up in, I mean, it was like almost totally white. So the girl on the front of this cover, she's a white girl with long blonde hair and it's blowing in the wind. She's got this modest sweater on and these nice earrings. Like, you're just like, oh, okay. So
every girl.
She's every girl. This is what we're supposed to look like. But she doesn't represent everyone. And I know you can't put every ethnicity on a cover. And I recognize that this is a white blonde girl. I'm a white blonde girl. I was then and I am now. And so, but I just noticed that, right? So part one of this book is your body, your looks. So first, we're going to talk about getting gorgeous hair. But in this, there's no mention of African-American hair needs. Everything is just basic white folks' hair needs. You know, it's like everybody wants a head of thick, shiny, bouncy hair. The problem is very few people know how to get it.
So the problem isn't that we're not born with it. The problem is we don't know which products to use to get it.
Right.
Whoa, wait a minute. Can I just time out for a second? Can you imagine the implications? I'm going to have a visceral response. The implication is your teacher, who's your authority and a big authority. I mean, think in the 80s, your teacher was like authority, puts a little pamphlet on your desk that says, this is the goal of hair. Look around the room, folks. I can tell you who had it. I actually did have it, by the way.
You had what?
I had kind of bouncy hair, I think.
Oh, bouncy hair. Okay. So you fit this description? No.
I brushed my hair a lot to try to get it. I just had to watch a Brady Bunch episode to figure out you had to brush your hair a lot. That's what Marcia or Jan.
Oh, wait. I don't know. One of them was totally brushing it.
Marcia.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe it was Marcia. Yeah. I learned that you had to brush your hair a lot. But look around the classroom. I had a lot of friends with thin, curly, other than what you're saying. And the implication is there's one good hair.
Right. I mean, this is totally God. Okay. Can I just say that in this time capsule, there were 2 photos.
Okay.
One photo happened to be from 1988 that matched this. The other photo was the exact year of the 90s magazine when I was a junior in high school. So I just think this is so God being like, okay, here, this was me. Look at this. I begged my mom to cut this this is like a long mullet. Let's just be clear.
I just want to say for our listeners, I kind of agree with what Chrissy's saying. It kind of is a long mullet, but I would have been jealous of it. I would have been jealous of it because it's real full. I think you were going for full.
I don't know what I was going for, but.
And the sweater with the ducklings on is actually making the whole thing even better.
So this is a foreshadowing. It's a blue shirt, white geese. You know how geese were really popular on dishes and stuff in the 90s, well, late 80s, early 90s. These white geese have yellow ribbons around their neck and they're walking. I am now a waterfowl hunter. So I think this was foreshadowing. My husband and I hunt ducks and geese. So anyway, side note. But this hair, so I don't know what's going on up here. That's just some kind of gunk.
Okay.
Right? But the hair, this is how I look when I get this book. My hair couldn't hold a perm. No one taught me how to do wings and bangs as I grew up. Like, no one taught me how to do this stuff. My mom could have taught me. And maybe she tried and I wouldn't listen. That was probably the case. Mom, if you're out there, I apologize. But this is not bouncy. Like, this is not shiny. So already I'm starting to probably feel bad about how I look.
Let me just say for the listeners that she looks absolutely precious. And this is a time capsule. Yeah, but I am going to agree with her. It's a little bit of a long mullet, which I'm kind of actually enamored by. I kind of feel like she could be in a rock band. You know what? I wonder if you were going for a rock band look.
We can go with that.
That's like 80s rock band.
It was probably Heart.
Yeah.
Vixen.
The thing is, you got that pamphlet and you're like, I don't have shiny, whatever. It's bouncy. I'm going to give you bouncy, but you're already feeling bad. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're going there and they're just talking about shampoo, conditioner.
What relevance does this have to a 10-year-old, by the way?
Well, it's the number one thing.
Who has absolutely no buying power, no purchasing power. Go home and say to your mom, I need a conditioner that can give me some shine.
Oh, yeah. It tells you in the combing techniques, heat styling to oily hair. If you've got oily hair, dandruff, dry hair, they're going to tell you all. You know, you're just working with hand-me-down tools, if that. And a crimper. I don't know if they mentioned a crimper, but that was the rage in the 80s.
Was it in the 90s, maybe the crimper? I do remember the crimper.
I had one.
You know what? It might have been the 80s because I was in high school, I think, with the crimper.
Can I just mention what I noticed right here? Do you see this? CG plus FS. Do you know who FS was?
Okay, let me think. Is it a star?
Celebrity. 80s celebrity.
Okay, let me think. Don't tell me. Shoot. Now you're gonna have to tell me because we can't give that time away.
We can't. Fred Savage.
Oh my
I was fanatical. By the way, that's another treasure I found is a giant Fred Savage poster that I love in the 80s. Wonder Years.
Please say Fred Savage. I actually would not have gotten that. You're younger than I am, but I know who you're talking about.
He was so cute.
You know what? He was kind of quirky. I wonder if you were like attracted to his just slightly, just ever in the show, right? What
the
show
Wonder
was that?
Years.
Oh, I do know what you're talking about. You had a little crush on him. I can see that. Yeah.
So apparently if I wrote it on my school handed Bible, okay.
Beauty book.
So then they go into good looking skin, right? Chapter 2. So we're going to skip past all of that to the real meat and potatoes. Number 3, delicious dieting.
Oh, darn it. Is that what it's titled? You're not making that up?
Delicious dieting.
Oh my goodness. Serve it on a platter.
And I am marking this thing up like there's no tomorrow.
I just need to just say for reference, you're talking about the little girl I just saw in that picture.
Yeah.
She's a baby.
Yes.
Wow. And you're marking up delicious dieting.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel when you think about that?
It makes me ridiculously angry, sad, baffled. I'm really baffled. The more I read this, the more I'm like, how did this slip through? How did no one review this and say, what are we doing here?
But why do you think? Why do you think that that was no big deal?
Because it was normal.
Yeah, it was normal. That's right. And not only that, it was promoted. This is the way the enemy always works, right? It's, I would say even today, things can be a little bit more outlandish, but it's within normal cultural context. That messaging is saying, what would you love to go back and say to her in your grandparents' bedroom with that book?
Throw that away, go burn it in her big burning barrel, like as kindling. Like, don't use
kindling.
This is all
kindling.
lies. This is straight from the pit of hell. This is from the enemy. This is meant to attack your identity in Christ and who he knows you're going to be one day.
Yeah.
This is a yoke of slavery. This is a trap.
Yeah. It's a blueprint, right? It's a highway that everyone kept getting on. It was an on-ramp, actually. So there was so often in our cultural context, there's an on-ramp. And if you hear everybody's stories, which you do, you hear so many people's stories now. And as you said, I've been doing it for a long time listening. There's always an on-ramp where now they're part of that cultural like messaging. And they weren't for that little girl that sat on my couch that was 11. It was getting on Pinterest. That was her on-ramp of, I didn't know. And now I knew my body was bad. And I didn't know my stomach was bad. She was tiny when she got that message, but she looked at her stomach differently after she heard it. And so there's those on-ramps. And it would be so interesting. Think of you going back to that precious Canadian geese with her mullet, beautiful mullet hair, and saying, hey, let's giggle about this. Let's giggle and look at this on the bed together and say, this stuff's crazy. You crazy. It's crazy. And be able to say, this is silly.
Yeah. To even think of you and I sitting in that room, but having Jesus sit on the bed next to me and say, this is the enemy. Hey, this is good. And here's how the enemy twisted. I did say this, and this is how my Father designed it. But look how he twisted it, just like he twisted it in the Garden of Eden. He twisted our words.
And the messaging, of course, for a believer in that is, you're not enough. God's holding out on you. And here's how you take what he's taken back. Like, this is how you get what he's taken from you. And of course, no 10-year-old, you're underlining, like, I need to use highlighter on my cheekbone. It's like, I mean, you're not, the messaging is just, oh, I can look better. I can make myself just a little bit better. That's a pretty subtle message. Of course, when you and I read it now, it's pretty blatant. But I know to that 10-year-old, it was subtle, right? I can brush my hair a few more times and I washed my hair with egg
Oh,
yolk, and
yeah.
I remember washing my hair with vinegar. I read that made it shiny, right? Bleh, bleh, bleh. I was like, oh, nothing like
You'd be
smelling like a
stinking.
vinegar bath.
Is it Easter? Is someone dyeing some eggs in
Kinda.
here?
No, but my hair's shiny. I should try that again. See how that works.
Let's not.
Right? I mean, the messaging, I think actually, you know what? So if you think about the Lord being just in those moments with us, He's so tender and compassionate towards our hearts that are so easily taken, right? What He's giving us for free, we're trying to earn. Our identity, our worth, our value, He's already like done, done, done. And then we're like, no, that's okay. I'll go earn it by following what the About Me book says, right? Like, I'm going to brush my hair and lip gloss myself up, and I will wear deodorant. I always think that was, you know what, that was a good plan. Wear deodorant.
Right. It's always a good plan to wear deodorant, I think. Maybe you need the natural kind. I can understand that, but it doesn't work for me. I got PCOS and hypothyroidism. We're stinking. We're smelling like a cat box in here half the time. Oh my gosh. We're not editing that. That's going to be in there because the more you know. There's an 80s.
Oh my gosh. The more you know. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding. With the star.
Yes, star.
Shooting.
Escaping.
Yeah. Getting out of here.
Public service announcement.
Yeah.
Wow. You would go back and you would say, you know what? We're going to wear deodorant, but everything else in here, we're going to maybe pitch it. But you have compassion for that 10-year-old. Yeah. It makes me sad.
Me too. And this 10-year-old who was told under chapter 3, delicious dieting, the first line, you probably spend a lot of time trying not to eat.
Wow. My hands are sweating. My hands are sweating. I wasn't.
Actually,
but thanks.
No, I'm always being told, get out of the cookie jar. You've had enough snacks or whatever. Like, because back then I was an intuitive eater. I just ate when I was hungry and stopped when I was full and had a grape soda and a cream soda. And it was not a big deal.
Please say grape soda.
Grape soda.
Yes. That you're like, wait, now that I've taken cough medicine, no, I can't have grape soda anymore. No.
Yeah. And it's like,
wow, I'm sure you spend a lot of time trying to not eat. What?
Trying not to eat. This is a difficult task because the truth is eating is fun. It's satisfying. It's a nice way to socialize. And it can seem to help a lot when you're depressed, nervous, or frustrated. Then it goes on to say, what often happens is that we forget the real reason we eat. The real reason is our bodies. A good, healthy diet keeps our bodies running efficiently, gives us plenty of energy, and maintains our weight at levels that look good and feel good.
Wow.
A poor diet often leaves a person feeling tired, pounds too heavy or light, and even moody. So let the food you eat work for you, not against you. And then they're talking about all this stuff. Okay, a good, healthful diet can still make eating fun, give you an opportunity to socialize, and ease an attack of nerves. The only difference is that afterwards, you'll still look good and feel great. Because this is the About Me, how to feel great and look terrific. That is the bottom line. The next header, bad habits.
Wow.
Most of us consume far too much, and they're just like soda, candy, sugar, just bad, bad, bad.
Wow. Yeah, that's your introduction right there, right? Was into bad food, good food, bad food. Oh, gross. I'm bad for wanting grape soda. And I guess next time I go to the movies, I won't get anything because it's all on the bad list, except if I get Raisinets. Maybe that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, then maybe we're meeting in the middle.
Wow. The messaging is so clear. You don't know how to eat, but this little booklet's going to tell you how. And with the primary goal of quote unquote looking good, which is an artificial norm, right? Somewhere in there.
Right. That my body, my existence, my being is based on how I look and what other people think of how I look, and pleasing other people who will look at me, and then pleasing myself by how I look. Like I never at 10 years old, I'm not thinking, but what if I don't like how I look? You know, I'm not even considering that. And then it tells you calories. Boys need 2,700 calories. Girls need 2,100 calories. Like normally we're not talking about numbers on here, but I just need to say this because it is cut and dry. So I highlight that. I underline it down here. And then there's a problem for girls. both girls and boys need the same amount of nutrients, calcium, zinc, iodine, and vitamins. This means that girls could consume fewer calories than boys, but they need to pack the same dietary benefits boys get from their higher caloric allotment. In other words, you have to eat sensibly. And crash dieting simply won't work. Oh, okay. But then they just start running foods down. They'll give you good.
The implication, I cannot imagine now, going back to your who vetted this. Can you imagine any normal, sensible person reading this and thinking this was a good plan for putting on the desk of a fourth grader?
Mm-mm.
And also, who came up with the chapter title, Delicious Dieting? It's like, wait, what of anything does that even imply? Oh, Chrissy, when you read this the first time in your closet at your home, did you feel sad?
No, I didn't. I felt like...
No, like right now when you went back. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes. The more I read through this, like I literally grieved. I cried. I was heartbroken. And here's the other part of that. When I picked up this picture of Mullet Central.
She's cute.
But see, I didn't see that. The first thing I said was, oh my gosh, I hope no one ever sees this picture. This is just like, I was tempted to rip it into little pieces and throw it away.
Like recently?
When I found it, when I opened, I go, Mom, ew, gross. I'm just going to be real.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. Cause you it, girl. You real.
I am real. I'm also too legit to quit, but that's in the 90s episode. And I go, Mom, ew, look at this. And I like start blaming her. How did you let me have this haircut?
Yeah.
I remember convincing you. This is the grown out version. At the top, it was spiked at one time.
You did it.
Somehow I convinced her to let our hairstylist get this spiky at the top.
You do know you were in a band. Somewhere you played jam guitar for somebody.
Oh.
Maybe it was an air band.
Oh, I mean, I was full on. I was playing the piano back then.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of like Paula Abdul.
Oh, girl,
he's a cold-hearted snake. Look into his eyes. I don't know if that was going to
singing, and I would be dancing to that. I was making routines.
It's the worst.
You know what? I'm so fascinated that you saw that and you actually were like, gross, I'm going to tear this up.
Yeah.
I look at that little girl and I just cannot get enough. I would put that like on my bulletin board, and she's precious because that was you at 10.
Yeah.
And then get that book. Wow.
When I saw this, I felt like just so ashamed. Ew. Like that's so gross. And just saying all these things. And then at some point it was like, I almost like felt a hand like on my chest, like on my heart, like, hold on, like that's you.
Yeah.
That's you. And she deserved every bit of respect and love and caring. I mean, you know, this is almost middle school. You're terrified you're about to go into middle school. Middle school's where things get real weird and wonky often. And so then I felt really like almost like I can't believe I was so mean to someone and it was me. Like I almost felt like the Holy Spirit was like, you're my daughter. That's you. You're you. And that's just the young version of Chrissy. And she deserved better, you know, and like, not that he shamed me.
No, but you know what I think is interesting when you see that picture, and I think this probably happens to a lot of us, you actually were brought back to the shame you felt for existence then. It's not that you yourself now, you would never do that to any 10-year-old you saw. Even if she had a spiky mullet, you'd hug her neck and, you know, nestle up to her in your pew at church. You would be like, come here, darling. Yeah. It's not that that's in you. It's that it triggered how you felt about yourself then. And isn't that the grace of the Lord, that one that we're not living in the 80s right now? Although there's a lot of good things you and I would go back to. Just his kindness actually in that healing.
Yeah.
Even for you to find those things.
For sure. I'm going to just say some of these. So like, then they have another chapter about best bodybuilders. Like some of this stuff is good. Exercise is a vital part of looking and feeling good. Some things are good in here. Some things are bad. But they start with saying exercise is a vital part of looking good and feeling good. So feeling good, yes. I struggle still with looking good because part of me wants to say, oh, yeah, that's true.
Well,
and then the other part of me is like, oh.
But do you understand, again, the implication of putting this in front of a 10-year-old who plays kickball, runs around with her friends, swims at the pool in the summer, goes on her bike.
Jumping on the trampoline.
So now I've just categorized movement as a way to shape my body and make me feel more likable. And that which it was a very normal part probably of most of those 10-year-olds. They just did move. That's what a 10-year-old does by nature, most 10-year-olds. So the inference is you probably aren't moving, along with trying really hard not to eat, but we got to move, folks. Well, most 10-year-olds, I have 4 kids. I had to tell them all to stop moving at one time. Like, we got to sit down at the table. We're going to do this thing, or we're going to tie our shoes, or we're going to, wash our faces and brush our teeth, because kids move. Yeah. That wasn't their problem. And now you've just created a very adult topic and put it at 10. And now that's the messaging for the rest of your life, well into the 90s.
Yes. But then they just tell me, almost everyone has some problem she needs to work on consistently. So go for the best version of you. Like, I thought that was kind of a newer thing to say, oh, I'm going to be the best version of me. So go for the best version of you. A trim, toned, healthy you is bound to be lovely and certainly unique. Unique? How about no? How about you just told me to do what everyone else is doing? What are you talking about? Hypocrites!
Let's circle the author's name again. We need to go. You know what? They're probably gone. They're probably gone, actually.
She's not.
Oh.
She's not. She's out there still, and she's doing kind of similar things, but I am going to give her grace because I think she may have
changed her
tune. And I pray that that's true. I pray that that's the case.
You threw me for a loop there, Chrissy, when you said
I wasn't expecting it. Yeah.
So pack on that there are devotionals from around the same time, but not only that, even more recently, that use that same language, but tack on you're doing that for God.
Yes.
They're there.
Right.
Middle school devotionals, teaching about self-control, teaching about honoring God with your body and how you can do it, which is the same language in there, but they just add on, that's how you can honor God with your body.
Right. And then they take something I love, like music. Music can also inspire you to push harder and exercise longer. How about no? How about I just want to go home and watch Kids Incorporated and the Mickey Mouse Club? At that age, I could not wait until I got home from school because I had about an hour and 15 minutes that I could watch my shows, dance on the hearth brick fireplace. That was the stage, and sing Cold Hearted Snake like a bro. Hey there. I'm so grateful that you are here and listening to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast. As always, you can find helpful links from today's episode in the show notes. I want to personally thank those of you who make this podcast possible. For over 20 years, Finding Balance has been helping people walk in freedom by finding Jesus in their struggles with food and body image. If you'd like to join others in supporting this ongoing work, you can do so in one of 3 ways. 1, leave a comment and review for the podcast on your preferred podcast app. 2, share the podcast with your network and friends on social media or via text and email. 3, this podcast is made possible because of generous donors. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation or become a monthly supporter, you can do so at findingbalance.com/donate. Our key scripture, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm then and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Galatians 5:1. Here's another lie. Exercise is an activity that few people truly like. And then they also proceed to say, there's no excuse. Give your body a good workout and watch it work for you. There's no excuse. No excuses.
No excuses, guys.
At all. I mean, it's just laying the foundation of this is what we're supposed to do. Then it moves to dressing your own figure. So this is where body dysmorphia, body image problems, chances are there are a few features about your figure that you would like to change. They're saying this again. I'm not just repeating myself.
Please don't say figure to a 10-year-old.
Bust. Let's call our boobs a bust. Like figure, bust. Like these are old terms. A little exercise and dieting can go a long way toward correcting problems, but perhaps there are things you can't change that easily. However, we can do a lot to hide the problems.
Wow.
So here we go. This is legit what they're saying. You can overall look healthier, fitter, and prettier than ever before. Here are some head-to-toe suggestions for correcting the most common figure problems. The figure problems I have problems with to this day are math.
Darn it.
I don't want to be adding figure problems. But so here's what they say. They break down your body parts. Shoulders. If your shoulders are too wide, too narrow or
Oh,
rounded, do
Chrissy.
this. Arms. If your arms are too heavy or too skinny, by the way, let me pause and say, too wide, too narrow, too rounded, too heavy, too skinny, all caps, shouting at
Wow.
us. Shouting at us.
In the book?
In the book? Yes, 100% in the book. If you do this, you can have more curves. If you want to not do this, stay away from.
Wait, can I just time out again? This is given to a 10-year-old.
10-year-old.
10-year-olds usually look like pencils. What do you?
This one didn't, but yes, yeah.
I was going to say some mature really early, and suddenly now I'm the problem because I don't look like everybody else who hasn't even started puberty yet.
Yeah. So all the girls who haven't started developing, they're like, a small bust can be given a few curves doing this, but stay away from this. So now they're going to start doing this. And I'm over here, one of the larger chested girls at that age, because I'm developing. A big bust can be minimized with doing this, and they'll bring you into better proportion. Be sure your bikini top fits. Otherwise, you will end up looking heavy, not curvy.
Oh, shoot.
This is legit. Waist. Here we go. Waist. If your waist is too thick, all caps, don't call attention to your problem with blazing, spirited colors. It doesn't even mention that your waist could be too small. Just the problem is too thick. Hips. If your hips are too narrow, all caps. If your hips are too wide, whatever you do, stay away from fancy seams and lots of pockets.
Ooh.
Can we just stop and say, my dress has pockets? We want pockets.
And also, it was overalls. I love the overall stitch. How many pockets could I have? Cargo pants.
And it says fancy seams and lots of pockets. Those kind of details will only draw the eye toward the problem. How about legs?
No, please quit saying
problems. I'm bolding them because they are bolden. Legs, heavy thighs can pose problems, quote unquote, especially when it comes to pants, shorts, and swimsuits. Blank can hide a lot of problems and give you a lean look. The eye will be drawn upward. Heavy calves look best in blank, blank, blank. Skinny thighs and calves are best camouflaged with. How do I even know what you want me to be?
This is the same time period that we're doing we are the world. We are the children. Yes. People are starving and we're doing huge fundraisers, global fundraisers for famine. People are dying.
World hunger, yes.
And this is the little booklet that's saying, if you have this problem area, this is how it can be solved. Can you imagine the dichotomy? The world, there's a famine. We should be donating, but yet I'm going to wear shoulder pads because
So it'll draw the eye upward?
Upwards?
And heavy footwear will only point out my problems of my legs, of whatever they are. And it says the whole picture. So then they're going to wrap it up as the whole picture. If you think you are too tall, too short, blah, 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 go for blank for instant curve magic. If you feel too curvy, blank will give you a smoother, leaner line. But as you can see, almost everyone is troubled by some problem with her figure. Wow. But fabrics, colors, patterns, and styles can go a long way toward helping you hide your figure flaws. I just am going to tell you, you are a horrible, flawed problem with a mullet and geese on your shirt.
I mean, I'm looking at that 10-year-old, and can you imagine how disorienting this little catalog was? It's I didn't know I had so many problems. Part of my problem was my hair was stick straight. You're talking about curling iron. I burnt my hand on that curling iron, and my sister would throw the curling iron down because she'd say, your hair doesn't keep a curl. Problem. But that wasn't even till middle school. I mean, in fourth grade, I was hi pony and I'm out of here, right? Same. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Messaging clear. I got the message. I have a lot of problems and this tiny little pamphlet's going to help me.
Yeah. And then part 2, yourself. Looking good and enjoying good health are tremendously important, but neither is worth more if you aren't happy. Oh, okay. Feeling good about yourself and your life helps you attain what you want most. Even your relationships will be happier. The truth is that friends, romance, and family can all provide you with a special sort of a special sort of warmth and security. Yet you have to like yourself first before anyone else can really contribute to your life in a meaningful way.
I feel uncomfortable with
it's
you're 10.
Cringy. Otherwise, no relationship you have is going to satisfy you because you'll be depending on other people to make you feel good about yourself. All caps. No one can do that for you. Liking yourself is up to you. It's your job, no one else.
Wait, liking yourself as long as you do all these things to make everyone else like what they're looking at. Is that the message?
I can't even. I have fallen out of reality. I liked myself just fine until you handed me this garbage book. What is happening?
I pictured me going to my siblings. I was the youngest of five and being like, you guys, I recognize that you cannot help me be satisfied. But if I don't wear heavy footwear, I can help the problem areas. And so I'm going to ditch the wooden clogs that I begged for because they're heavy footwear. I'm going to go with the jelly shoes.
It's a wonder we could wear Doc Martens in the 90s. How did I even wear Doc Martens when I was told this brouhaha?
Yeah.
So here's the conclusion of this.
Yeah.
So the most important message in this book, I'm just going to say all caps, take control of yourself.
Oh.
You are a problem that you need to fix. If there's something about your body that bothers you.
Wait. It didn't really say that. It said that?
I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Try a diet, begin a special routine. But like literally, there's a lot in life that we can't control.
I don't have words.
Right?
I don't have words that the message that was subtly slid across your little desk and you went home was you didn't know your body was a problem. It is, and you have to fix it. And the messaging, the part that you just read was, and your relationships, don't expect them to go well, including romance at 10.
Yeah.
Right? Failure. Doomed. Unless you work that skinny bust and you eliminate your heavy footwear. Wow.
So here's the other thing. This is crap. Good things can happen without our pushing for them. And bad times can come along, even though we struggle to keep them away. But in between the lucky breaks and the unavoidable problems, there's a lot you can do for yourself to bring confidence and happiness in your life. Reach out for the things you want. If you don't, no one else will or can. It's really up to you. If that is not a satanic message from Hades, wow. Okay, so that was good. Any final thoughts for this episode before we move into the 90s?
Yeah, you know what, Chrissy? I'm so grateful that you would share that vulnerable story because to even picture you in that closet and to picture even your initial reaction, it's real. It's so real. And it's beautiful and it's real. And the reality is, look at God's healing. He's so faithful.
So good.
And bring back smelly stickers is all I got to say.
Hey, let's do it. I'm sure they're out there. I'm
sure they are.
I can just smell the buttery popcorn right now.
Butter, popcorn, bubblegum.
Bubblegum. Oh, yeah. Even the pizza one, it was kind of...
It was a little edgy. It was like onions. It was like onions and jalapeno.
Like the onion patch. Oh, this is familiar. This smells like my class.
Oh my God. Okay.
Stay tuned for our next episode where we will have a 90s diet culture time capsule. I can't wait. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for having me, Chrissy.
Thank you for listening to the Old School Food Freedom Podcast. For over 20 years, Finding Balance has been helping people walk in freedom by discovering where Jesus fits into their struggles with food and body image. If you want more biblical truth and encouragement, head on over to FINDINGbalance.com and subscribe to our free daily vitamin devotional. While you're there, explore our Christ-centered Lasting Freedom online course and small group tools. You can help keep this ministry going by donating today at FINDINGbalance.com. See you next time. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prescribe a particular course of action. If you have or suspect you may have an eating disorder, please consult your healthcare provider. If you desire to receive faith-based care, visit ChristianTreatmentFinder.com to browse professionals with a Kingdom campaign against eating disorders.